Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Xony, and today we're going to have some more stories from Reddit. But before we start, it would be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to my channel, like the video if you enjoy it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now, without further ado, let's go. Now let's get into today's stories to find out what happened. My wife, 35, and I, 40, met at a single parents group. She had a 6-year-old daughter, and I had my 9-year-old son. We hit it off instantly and pretty much agreed that very day that we wanted to try this out. It went extremely well, and our kids became friends. They'd argue a little, but quickly forgive and go back to playing. We got married, and early on my wife's routine was to take the kids to the park while I was at work in the print shop. Since we lived in New York City, we had GPS trackers activated on our phones. It offered some peace of mind. I didn't check it every day. I mostly just took my wife's word for it when she said she was going to the park or shopping. I checked more often when this routine began, but then I learned to have faith everything would be fine. After a few years, my wife suddenly started coming home with more stuff, but the money wasn't leaving our account. It took me a while to notice this, and when I finally asked my wife about it, her answer seemed rehearsed. She said she's an excellent bargain shopper, and I don't need to worry about her wasting the money I earn. I thought this was nice to hear and pretty much let it go. We went out to dinner one night with the kids, and I tried to pay the bill while my wife was in the bathroom. I realized I left my card in different pants, so I looked in her wallet for the bank card to the account we shared. Instead, I found a bank card with AP name on it. I took a picture with my phone while the waiter stared at me like I was crazy. Then AP paid for dinner. I wasn't sure how to bring this up with my wife, and I wanted her to admit the truth without trying to lie. I had to catch her red-handed. I left work to find her at the Gates location on 5th Avenue. I spotted her with AP and the kids sitting at a table eating lunch. There was a third child I assumed was AP. I was extremely devastated. Breathing was a struggle, because I was seeing the woman I loved with another man and her kids behind my back. They held hands, kissed, and appeared to be married. I wondered why my son didn't tell me this was happening. I recorded them as I approached and told my wife that I just caught her kissing another man. Her expression looked like her soul left her body. She couldn't believe I was standing there recording. She asked in a daze how I found her. I told her never mind and took my son with me. As I walked away, I told her not to return to the apartment again. Her daughter started crying and called me daddy, which broke my heart. That's when my wife started crying and I realized strangers had stopped to watch what was happening. When I got home, I watched the video I recorded again and heard something I didn't hear at the moment. My wife told me AP wife just died, as if that was a reason for her to be kissing and spending time with him. I had the guy's name off his bank card, so I looked him up. I easily found him, but no record of his deceased wife. He had an angry ex-wife that posted things relating to emotional support. After discovering spousal infidelity and divorce, I decided to post a video confrontation on AP profile. Later that night, my wife returned home completely ashamed. She begged me to forgive her because she had no idea AP was lying to her and she doesn't trust him anymore. I just laughed and told her she must be able to see she's doing the same thing to me that AP did to her. He lied. She lied. He cheated. She cheated. They deserve each other. She looked sick. While she explained that, AP also hid the fact that he was staying in another woman's home. She admitted he had her over there, but only when the lady was gone. He never intended to let her or her daughter move in with him, and she didn't expect to, since she never wanted to leave me. It turns out they met at the park 7 months ago and continued meeting up ever since. She thought it was harmless to start a meaningless relationship with this man if it only helped him get through a loss and benefited our marriage. She begged me not to make her leave. I told her to get her stuff and get out. I added that if she learned anything from this, she would never cheat on anyone ever again. She cried as she packed and asked me where she was supposed to go. I shrugged and suggested her parents' house. Her daughter was super upset about having to leave. She didn't want to get any of her things, and she said she wanted to live with me. I think this helped my wife to really understand how badly she messed up. She broke apart our family and caused our kids to have to go through this too. Months later, our stuff is officially divided between my place and her parents. She's just taken several steps backward in life with nothing to show for the last 10 years except the daughter from a previous relationship. We tried to come together and live like a family should, but it wasn't enough for her, and she made the terrible decision to let another man love her, all while pretending to be my wife and living in my apartment. As hard as this was, I know I can find a real woman that remains honest and loving toward me by choice because it's what she wants to do. Now let's get into today's second story. My wife was raised by a single parent who struggled financially and would find unstable living situations at best. Her small family was resentful towards her because she was labeled as an unexpected burden. When we fell in love as young adults, she was so relieved to have found me after just 9 months of dating. I wanted her to move in with me into my nice house just 13 minutes from the beach. This was because I saw the living conditions she endured. She made it her goal to keep our home cheery, hopeful, and organize things she never got to grow up with. She had a talent for knitting and started making money with an online store. After just a few months of living together, she proved to me that she had ambition and hope for our future. I loved how she always had the dishes clean, clothes hung, and floors swept before I got home. She even packed my lunches in advance so I wouldn't have to spend money on fast food. Suddenly, just as quickly as she proved herself, my girlfriend started to change. She became irritated with everything I did or didn't do. Whenever I went to the bathroom, she complained that the whole house smelled and sprayed Febreze excessively. When I sneezed, burped, spoke, or breathed, she'd roll her eyes. I continued trying to be as sweet as possible, but I did start asking her to do the laundry, dishes, and pack my lunch. I needed her help and support as my girlfriend and roommate. After my request, she started doing the dishes as loudly as possible when I was home and leaving my clothes bundled up in the basket. She did even try to pack me lunches. The last straw for me was when we stopped having intimate. I planned to confront her one day after work. I got a rude text from her and rolled my eyes before going back to work, so I missed her call. It was a butt dial, and she unintentionally left a very long voicemail. I could hear her talking to someone, among other weird noises, so I went home. Right away, I found her making out with another man in my living room. Even though she completely changed, I never suspected her of having someone else at the house. They noticed me but didn't move or say anything. I felt completely powerless and stupid for not kicking her out sooner. I just shut the door and left. She actually opened the door and asked if we could talk about it. I ignored her, but figured out what was likely going through her head. She knew if I kicked her out, she'd be homeless. So even though she just randomly decided to hate and cheat on me, she couldn't give up the only place she had to live. I told my good friend everything that was happening and arranged to stay with him until I could get her out of my house. She got me on the phone and actually tried to say she should be forgiven since I was the one that got distant, stopped having intimate, and demanded too much from her. I told her she was crazy for thinking that way, and her brainwashing wouldn't work on me. I told her I only ever treated her as best as I could, so I expected the same in return. But instead she turned into a bitter, hateful roommate. She disagreed and wished me luck getting her to leave the house because she believed it was hers. Now I have no idea why she thought that because my name was on it. It was nearly paid off since I took over the payments after my parents died. It only took about 2 weeks to get her out of there, but by then she destroyed the place. She wrote with markers on the walls, stabbed the furniture, and broke all the dishes. I was able to take her to court for the damages. All the while I was just so relieved that she showed her quickly into the relationship. I was thankful she didn't try to hurt me, and that had got her out of my life and house. I cheerfully fixed up the house with a grateful spirit and ended up selling it for profit. I bought a different house close to the beach, carrying on with my life while my ex left me bitter, hateful. Almost every day on different phone numbers. She was having a hard time moving on, but that's just what she deserves. I'm so glad I didn't have children with this girl because she has a lot of growing up to do. She doesn't know what's required in a mature, stable relationship. Since all this happened, I've got married and bought a second rental property thanks to my wonderful wife's help. I wanted to share this terrible story so that anyone else going through something like this knows that they do not need to stay with someone that starts treating them poorly. There's no excuse for it, and living in an environment like that is terrible for anyone's well-being